Khabib and Tony. I love it. I love the fight. I believe that 155 pounds is the hardest division in all of mixed martial arts. I think you could argue that 145 pounds is the hardest division. I don't think you could successfully argue any other weight class. I think that is what reminds us and really speaks to how great Conor McGregor is. I think he deserves that credit. I think if we're going to come out and agree, I'll speak for myself, but I think you guys agree with me. If I'm going to say that 55 and 45 are the hardest weight classes and he conquered them both, boy, there's an argument right there, right? It's very hard to look around that. But one thing about it, it's musical chairs. You don't see those guys holding the belt for that long. One thing that made what Jose Aldo did so incredible with that 10-year run, essentially 11 years, if you want to take the 14 seconds that didn't go his way with Conor, if you want to take that 11-year run at the toughest weight class in the sport. But you see musical chairs being played because those guys are so good. Now Conor's out of the equation, right? Got Eddie Alvarez, the most violent man in the UFC. You got Kevin Lee, most aspiring, best athlete in the UFC, maybe the brightest future. You got Chiesa in there. I mean, I could go through the list, but let's stop the buck at Ferguson and Khabib. It's the right fight. It's very rare where everybody stands back and goes, yeah, Dana, just make that fight. Everyone's always arguing, it should be my shot, or well, I beat this guy, or what about me? Dana announced Khabib and Tony, and the whole division just stood back and said, well, yeah, of course, it's those two. So I'll tell you this, I've never seen anybody with the ground and pound of Khabib. I think of myself as a ground and pound fighter. You know, I prefer that position over, you got to fight everywhere, but I prefer that position. I can't do what Khabib can do. You know, I was trained by Randy Couture, who's a great ground and pound fighter, maybe even helped coin the phrase right behind Mark Coleman of ground and pound. We can't do what Khabib can do. He's got tricks there. He's not just throwing people down and beating them up. There's tricks there. There's some intricacies. He also keeps that incredible pace. He's also great at getting guys to the ground. So he's very special. But I only know him through television. I only know him from what I've seen. That's a good frame of reference, but that's all I have. Tony, I'll share a story with you. I know Tony firsthand. We were teammates at the Rain Training Center. I trained with him every single day. I never touched him, not once. We never became drilling partners. We never sparred together. The way they did it at Rain is kind of the big guys went down here and the lighter guys went over here, and Tony and I were just separated, but I watched him every day. And I do the whole workout. Mark Munoz was the coach, did everything he asked. And then I was done. Practice was over, like everybody. Well, except one guy, that's Tony. Tony would do the entire workout, then he would stand right in the middle of the room and just let people rotate on him. And I could tell you some names. I mean, I could drop some big names on you that were rotating on Tony. And Tony wore them all out. He wore them out. He stayed in there every day until nobody could go anymore. And he was in the whole time. They were rotating. Everybody's fresh that's coming in on him. He would wear them all out, even with their break. The whole room would clear out, except me. I'd be in the watching Tony. And then he'd go finish up on the heavy bag when there was no human left that could keep up with him. And Kevin Lee talked about that after he fought him. He talked about that pace. And I think that Tony makes a big mistake in his fights. I think he gives up position too often and too easy. I know he makes guys pay for it. I know it's never cost him a fight giving up that position, but I would argue that he's not going to want to be under Khabib as much as he may think he does. But I would also offer you this. Khabib has used his pace as well as any fist or elbow or strike or takedown that he's got. He uses that pressure. I will not agree until I see it that he can out-push and out-condition Tony Ferguson, particularly in 5 rounds. And I will remind you, as good as Khabib is, and he's very special. What's he, 24-0 now? Very special. He's not in the 5-round club. The 5-round club is a very, very rare group. And a lot of guys get scheduled for 5 rounds, but they don't actually go it. Tony Ferguson's in that club. We know he can hold up. It's not a question mark. I don't think we doubt that Khabib can. That's not what I'm suggesting right now. But we don't know. And I think when you look at that fight and you analyze it, Khabib's the favorite. But I think there's some intangibles here that favor Ferguson.